we just shoot for about 20, 25 minutes, whatever's comfortable. And if you're done in 10, we're done in 10. Okay? So there's no pressure. Here we go. Welcome to Inside Look. I'm Jeff Lyons, and it's my honor today to have Evansville Mayor Stephanie Terry on Inside Look with us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
I really appreciate this. I know we've been trying to cook this up for quite a while. We were sampling gumbo together. I think we were in a gumbo tasting competition. I said, you really ought to be on the podcast. And you had like 3 other things that day as mayor that you had to do. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a schedule. So I guess, has that been a shock to you, how busy you would be as mayor since you've been at it?
It was a bit overwhelming at first, even though the former mayor, actually, we had a very candid conversation about the amount of hours that he put in, while he was in office.
Sure.
And that could go as far as, like 80 hours a week, 80 plus hours, depending on what you're invited to. And so, yes, it took some time to get some balance. I think last year we spent, I would say we attended maybe over 600 events and meetings. I spoke over 125 or so times in various public events and events and so forth. So yes, it's been overwhelming. I will tell you, we're being really thoughtful, this year and how we plan and schedule what my day looks like, because again, every day is different. But it's important though for people to see me in the community. It's important for me to celebrate the great things that are happening, and so I want to be present as much as possible.
But you can't be everywhere at once.
But I can't, and I also got to remember to do some self-care, which has been a challenge for me to do.
You must have a list like 3 feet long on your fridge every morning just to know where you're supposed to go, right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to loop around to the mayorship, but before we get to that, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about you growing up here in Evansville, going to Bosse, all that sort of stuff. You have children, you're married, you've done the whole thing. So where would you like to start?
Oh, well, to talk about myself in kind of a quick nutshell, I mean, again, this is my home. Evansville's my home. Everything that I am right now is because of, those individuals and how this community poured into me. And I went away, growing up, of course, I had, went to various elementary schools, but I can always remember Miss Baker. She was my kindergarten teacher. And early on, I don't even know why this is so vivid in my mind, but I was one of her assistants always in her classroom. If she stepped out, she put me in charge of the classroom.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, early on, I was being, that leadership ability was being developed at the age of 5 and 6. And so that just kind of continued on in my journey in life, and, spent time, again, being involved in almost everything. I played basketball. I ran track. I played volleyball. I did it all. I was very active in drama. So I love being on the stage. If I could, in my other life, if I could be on the stage and perform like Whitney Houston, I think I would do that.
What shows were you in? Was this at Bosse?
It was.
And what did you do?
So I ran track.
I know that. What shows did you do?
Oh, probably my favorite was The Wiz. That was my senior year. And that's what everybody hears about. I was Dorothy in The Wiz.
Okay.
So that was a big year. And, Mr. Baker was my choir, teacher at that time. And he always tells the story that I had a track meet and the Wiz, the opening night for The Wiz, and I did both in the same night. I was like, what?
How'd you manage that?
How did I manage that?
You jumped over the thing and ran right to the stage, right?
I guess so. But it's that really, I think, helped, again, my work, in terms of work ethic and how, I'm just so giving now. I ultimately just want to give back to the community in which gave to me. And so really I decided to come back home as a young mom. I went away to college after having, a child in high school. But I wanted to be back here in Evansville. And so when I came back, probably shortly, like a year or two afterwards, I ran for school board.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first introduction into, I guess, what you could call politics at that time.
Yeah.
And while it's a nonpartisan role, there was some politics behind running for school board. But I was unsuccessful. But I really stayed involved and engaged in my community. Later ran for city council, wasn't successful, but stayed there. And people saw, again, me developing as a leader by what I did in the community. And so it really positioned me for where I am now.
And so now, were you at the Carver Community Center then, or had you already gone to SEMO, to the Children's Museum at that time?
So probably when I ran for, city council, that was way before even going to Carver Community Organization or SEMO. So
okay.
It was
way back,
really in my
way
20s. I was out there again, trying to make a difference. And so again, that helped, I think, with my early journey into this path.
Sure. But then you got on county commission, right?
Yeah, county council.
Or county council.
Yes.
I always get those two
No,
turned around.
yes.
Everybody does. So.
And honestly, that was really after, former county council member Roy Sutton, he was on there for nearly, I think, close to 18 years.
I went to high school with Roy Sutton. Yeah.
And was going to relocate.
Okay.
And so, the party gets to caucus in somebody.
Sure.
And they called me.
Okay.
And so caucused in. A few months later, I was then elected to that seat and served 4 terms.
Yeah. Okay. So then you got a little bit of momentum going
Yes.
here. So what was the impetus for you to run for mayor? Did somebody tap you on the shoulder, or did you wake up one morning and say, I don't have quite enough to do. I'd like to run the city. How did that happen?
Honestly, there were folks that were tapping me on my shoulder. And I think as soon as the former mayor made the announcement that he was not going to pursue, it opened up a door, an opportunity for a number of folks to consider, is this the time for me? Mm-hmm. And after a lot of thought and prayer, because it took me probably 6-7 months before I really decided, yes, this is what I want to do. Because I wanted it to be right for my family. I wanted it to be right for me. But again, it has allowed me to just an extension of how can I make a meaningful impact on the community that's poured into me.
So how do you discern on that? Like one day you get up and you think, well, if I were the mayor, I would do this, that, and then the other day you think, boy, thank goodness I'm not the mayor. Right. So how do you get to it then? I mean, it takes a lot of guts to go ahead and say, well, you know what, I'm going to run, and then you got to put yourself out there. You may or may not get it, which I could never. I couldn't take the rejection. I mean, at least here they just force me out on people you can watch or not. But with an elected official and head of the city, people chose you, so there's a big burden there. But then there are people that didn't choose you either. So that must be an odd feeling, an odd balance.
It is an odd balance, but ultimately, when it's all said and done, I'm in this role and I'm here to serve everyone,
everybody,
regardless of it. And I'll tell you, in that decision making process, there were periods where I said, no, this is not. Because of the rejection, the thought of being rejected by folks. And so, but there was something deep down in the gut that just wouldn't let it loose. And so, finally, it was after repeatedly hearing, the same message, this is your time. If you don't do it, who else will? Kept resonating with me, and I took that leap of faith, and here I am.
And so how does that happen? Like people bump into you at the store, at church, and they say, why aren't you running for office? You need to run for office. Stephanie, you need to go for that. I mean, is that kind of how it happens?
It is how it happens.
But then there's also the political side. You got to raise money.
You do.
Right? Yeah. That's the awful part that I would hate about politics. So how did you feel about now having to go out hat in hand and make your case and, neighborhood meetings and all that sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, of course, I, as a nonprofit, leader,
you were asking for money for years. I was asked for money
for a lot, but it's different when you're asking for yourself. I mean, there's a humbling that comes over you in order to do that. And so we did hire someone to help with fundraising. And there's a lot of time that you spend on the phone making cold calls and asking for support, but being clear about, what you want to accomplish. And approachable, I think it makes all the difference. And we did a pretty good job, I think.
Yeah. So at the level of a city mayor, how much do you do research of the market? I'm asking here, do you have a political consultant that goes out and they say, listen, these are the hot issues? Or did you kind of inherently know, since you live here and you've worked here, you know the community, did you think that you knew the issues and then it's like you got in and oh, by the way, these are some issues too? Like, how many surprises have there been along the way?
Yeah, I don't know if there's been any surprises, and I would say the things that I ran on during my campaign have been the things that we've continued to carry forward.
Right.
There have been other issues that surfaced from an operational standpoint that we're trying to address that we didn't realize we would be, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's about offering the best city services that we possibly can, and so, if I could be just completely honest with you, I never thought we would be, I would be dealing with some of the animal, care and control issues that we have.
Right.
But the reality is, it's something that's important to a lot of people in this community, and so we're doing everything we can to make sure that is that shelter is at its best.
Yeah.
And that.
And we ran a story, I think, a couple of weeks ago, at least at the time of this recording, they had a horse in there, and they had to make a temporary enclosure for a horse, which, they hadn't set up for. But those are the kinds of things, city services that I think a lot of people, unless you are contacted, by it, or you have, animal problem or whatever, you don't think about.
Right.
On the other hand, you drive downtown. We've got buildings going up there at 5th and Main, finally.
Yep.
That must make you feel good to look out the window and start to see stuff growing down there eventually. And then at the same time, you got the big hole, at least at the time of this recording, on the riverfront. And, I'm sure you hear about that, but how much can you really do as mayor? Other than say, I hate the hole too. We're working on it.
And there are circumstances where you can't plan. In
ahead
for it.
Nobody plans for a sinkhole.
Right. You can't plan for it. But what you can do is again take the necessary steps to try to address and respond to it, and communicate and be transparent with individuals about what's happening. And so we're trying to continue to do a better job of that. But in regards to just how do we identify what priorities are important and so forth, something we did during the campaign and it's natural. I mean, there's pollsters. You do hire people to help build out what your priorities should be. You test that. And we did that. But even since we've been in office, one of the things that we've worked on last year was a strategic plan. As part of that, we asked the community, what's important to you? Yeah. And we'll continue to do that. I'm ramping up here very soon, hope to do a community budget survey. We're planning for the 2026 budget. It's important for us to hear from the community. We had a forum, a town hall for the budget, not well attended. So I said, okay, let's take it another step, see if we can get some survey results. Again, because I want people to feel a part of the decisions that are made on behalf of them. So that'll be coming out soon. But that's a way for us to stay current on what people view as important so that we're aligned moving forward. Okay.
And I know neighborhood revitalization has been a big priority of yours, or was going in, seems to be from, just what I see on the news. Yes. Remember, this is the weatherman talking. So I'm watching the news like everybody else. Oh, okay, they're doing this, that, and the other. But that must be something that, clearly would affect all of us, at least who live in the city and use those services. You must get a lot of feedback about that, and positive, negative too, right? You'll always, it seems like Evansville has, I've grown up here too, and there's always going to be where are we going to park, or why didn't we do, always a naysayer, right? But for the most part, it seems like things are moving in the direction you intended. Yeah,
I think so. And I think it's also being sure that we continue to tell the story. We've been doing block by block since last year, and that's our citywide cleanup initiative. And while it says cleanup in it, it's really more than just a cleanup effort. We have been very intentional looking at code enforcement violations and crime statistics to drive what neighborhoods we select for these block by block cleanups. So we're being intentional. In that, we're not just asking volunteers to come in. We're actually bringing city employees that offer their regular core services. This is during the weekday that we're going out into neighborhoods. So they're filling potholes. They're restriping roads where necessary. They're removing graffiti. They're doing all these things that they would normally do. We're just doing it in a more, strategic manner. And so I think those kind of efforts really are going to be transformative and make a meaningful impact on the lives that it impacts.
So when you're driving to work every day, do you have a little sticky note on your dashboard and you say, man, we've got to do something about that, when you drive past, a weedy lot or something?
Yes. Or you see everything as mayor now. Yeah.
that must be pressure, though. It'd be like, no matter, you're always kind of working, it's kind of like that for me, too. I'm always the weatherman, whether I'm on TV or not. People will ask me about that. But with you, it's kind of a step higher than that, isn't it? Because I think people feel like you should be able to do something, right? They know I can't do anything, but so how do you deal with that then? Do you go to the grocery store and do people stop you and say, my street needs a street light, that kind of stuff?
Yes, all the time.
Really?
So I'm never off. And so we try to make sure that, especially if my husband and I are out to dinner and, we get approached, he's very careful to say,
this is our time.
This is our time.
And that's
good. People usually are respectful of that. Some have not been always
I know
been
about
the case,
that too.
But there's never not an opportunity. But I think our approach, and I say my administration and my team, is we want to be sure people know that I'm visible, that I'm present, that I'm there with them, and so that it comes with it. And being that engaged and immersed in the community.
Okay. And you told me earlier you had 3 children?
I do.
And are they in town still or around about?
They are around about. My stepson actually lives in Indianapolis with his mother, but my other 2 boys are here. One is will be a sophomore at the University of Evansville, and really just proud of what they're doing and working with children.
Cool. All right. So, and chip off the old block, right? Because you did your master's or your health something, I can't remember off the top of my head, health administration
Yes.
at UE, correct?
I did.
Okay. So keep it all in the family like that. And you're a singer. You know, I didn't realize this until I had gone to an honors game, and I was out getting snacks, you know, it was a hot dog or whatever, and the national anthem started. And I didn't know you were going to be the singer. And I thought, wow, Gina sounds, I thought it was Gina Moore. I thought, boy, Gina sounds great tonight. And I walked down, it was you. I thought, whoa, Gina Moore's got competition in town now. So she was on the podcast, and we talked about that. And she said it's friendly competition.
Oh, yes, it
That's
is.
right. That she's still the queen of
She
Evansville
is.
singing, but it's a healthy competition. So that must have come obviously naturally if you were in the Wiz and Dorothy and all that. Do you still sing quite a bit?
I do. I sing not every Sunday, but
Right.
church is where I sing the most. And
Yeah.
again, when I'm invited, I sing. I will tell you, those invitations have become a little bit more frequent.
Uh-huh.
And I think I'm coined as the singing mayor, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
I have to balance kind of how much I can do that.
Well, we've had different singing officials over the years. We had singing sheriff Brad Ellsworth and this is why, see, I used to do the really big show for the Arc of Evansville. That was a project we did for 20-some years. And now we got a mayor with real talent, and we don't have a show anymore. You know, we went to a little different fundraising format, but man, we would have had you on like that.
The funny thing is the Challenger League, their fundraiser, they have kind of this lip sync performance every year.
Sure.
I'm the only one that really gets to sing. I don't
They
lip
open the
sync.
mic and
Yeah.
it's actually your voice. Huh?
Yes, so it's pretty fun.
Well, that's pretty good. So you got 4 years as mayor, and then when do you think you'll make the decision, or when do you have to make the decision? Yeah, I think I'll do it again, or no, that's probably enough, or you know, I mean, I'm assuming you would run again, but I mean, I don't want you to have to go on the record, but you know what I'm saying? Just how does that decision get made?
Oh well, still a lot of thought about what you've done and accomplished. I think those things have to go into. You have to consider those. And of course, you're never going to get everything you want to do done
Right.
in 4 years. You need more time, and so for me, I'll probably mid next year would be an ideal time frame I've given myself to make that decision whether I will run for re-election. And I think that's a fair time. As an incumbent, you'll have over a year really to plan and to execute a successful campaign.
Yeah. What's the relationship with your political party when you're the mayor? Democrat or Republican, doesn't really matter. I mean, I know it would probably be different depending on the personalities involved. But once you're in, then what's the party's role? Because you're sort of the standard bearer of the party right now, correct? So what do they do then? They're like, hey, there's our woman right there, and then are they continuing to raise money and everything, or is that still on you?
Yeah, still you as the individual, as the office holder, is responsible for your fundraising. Of course, you ideally want your parties to also be fundraising to support candidates in the future, and even as candidates are coming up. Whenever there's an election cycle, there's room for supporting your local candidates, and so that's ongoing work that all parties do.
Yeah.
And right now, I think as a party also, now that I'm an office holder, and even for myself and even city council members, you also want your party to support some of the priorities and advance the work that you're doing. So keeping people engaged by asking them to volunteer for some of your initiatives are another way that your party members should be involved.
Yeah. Tell me the wildest thing that's happened since you've been the mayor. Like the craziest, wildest thing you would never believe this happened, but...
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, just recently you mentioned, a horse being dropped off. And that's really wild
at
to
the
me.
animal control.
At animal control. That's probably one of the wild things that I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. Haven't had to do like a groundbreaking where, you hit a gas main when you put the
No,
shovel in or
nothing like
anything
that
like
yet.
that. Okay. Well, you still got time to pull that off. And then you had mentioned earlier, you still have a relationship with the previous mayor, with Lloyd Winnicky. And I know you were part of EREP, right, at some point, either on their board or
Yes,
something.
I'm on the board.
So do you think that's unique in Evansville that the mayors, regardless of party, seem to have a relationship? I don't know if you know Jonathan Winesapple or
I do
or
very well. He
Russell
was
Lloyd
on
Jr.
he was on my team.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Absolutely.
see, I need to look, do a little more research on this. But I assumed, there haven't been any really I mean, it seems like the transitions have been very smooth from one administration to the next, regardless of party in that. Are we unique in that way in Indiana?
You know, I would say yes. Just from conversations I've had with other mayors, we are very unique in that. But again, I think that's what this Evansville is really known for. You talk about collaboration and really being thoughtful about, coalescing around issues that are important to our city. We do a great job of that. And that's whether that's the business sector, whether that's the nonprofit community, we know how to work hand in hand. And I think that's really in the spirit of why, my kind of coin theme is forward together. This is not something that government, the work that we do, we can't do it alone. It takes a number of sectors and folks coming together for the common good.
I don't know what made me think of this, but I mean, your message is so heartening and warming. But when I was first working in Terre Haute, this has been many years ago, 35 years ago, the mayor up there, I'm not going to name his name, but people would know who lived in Terre Haute. I don't think he's living anymore. Anyway, somebody was complaining about something in Terre Haute in a press conference. Mm-hmm. Cameras rolling. He said, hey, if you don't like it here, there's a bus leaving town every day.
Oh, wow.
we used to quote that all the time, and so it was kind of my way or the highway, but obviously, that's not the case here. You're collaborating, you're working with other people. Yeah. How often is it, though, that you have something you want to do, Stephanie Terry wants to do, and how do you get people to, crack their heads together and say, we're doing this, whether eat your peas? Do you have to do that to get things through ever?
Yeah. Well, one, I think, is convening people.
Yeah.
And we've done a really good job, I think, of bringing people together and trying to maximize what their influence, from the Interfaith Council to our Youth Council. They all have a voice in how our city moves forward. And so I think assembling those coalitions of people, sharing the vision, and getting that buy-in is really critical. But it's so far it's worked.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's been some pushback in areas, and so I have to rethink. Okay, how do I reposition this and take it back? And so I'll be doing that here in a few months, especially as we're talking about the budget, things that we've not been able to get council support for. Bringing that back.
And there's always that push-pull between the city council and the mayor, right? I mean, it's never going to be just
It shouldn't.
What would you like today?
It shouldn't be that, definitely. But
but historically, I mean, I think that's probably by design. That there's going to be kind of like like with the president and the Congress, where you have two branches more or less that work off each other.
And I think even council members, they all have their things that are of of interest to them, and they're going to work on those things. Sometimes it aligns, with the executive, and sometimes it doesn't. But what we really try to do a good job. I do a great job, hopefully, of communicating with them on what I'm working on, and they do vice versa. And we just try to find those commonalities and push those forward. And I think we're doing a great job so far.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in here and squeezing me, shoehorning me into your
I appreciate
schedule.
You having me.
You got anything else you want to talk about today? Any other wild, crazy things in your mayorship or anything else?
It's not wild and crazy, but it's it was touching. Let me say one of the things I'll won't forget. And so very recently, we had a kid CEO for a day, and this young lady, Serenity, she won. We had a youth symposium earlier in the year, and there were giveaways, and she selected be a mayor for a day, and she actually won that. And so she spent time with me this summer, and we were walking and talking about social media and the role of the mayor, and sometimes people are not so nice to the mayor.
Right.
And she was very shocked to hear that people were not nice to the mayor. And she said, you know what my mom always tells me, do your best, your very best, and everything will work out. And I just thought it's so profound from an elementary school student to say, just keep doing your best. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. And hopefully I'll be able to make some meaningful progress along the way.
Yeah, very good. Stephanie Terry, thank you so much for being on with us. Evansville Mayor Stephanie Terry here on Inside Look. I'm Jeff Lyons. If you'd like to hear this podcast or any other, you can do it wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can watch on the 14 News YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us.